Hey guys, welcome back. Today's video I want to talk about how to teach drill. Let's get started. So when I start with this concept, I think it's very misconstrued, and the way people go about doing drills, they get a group of, depending on if you're teaching an encampment or a squadron, you get a group of people out there with a varying level of skills, whether they came from their parents in the military and have taught them some things, JROTC, Sea Cadets, any of those things, or if you're an encampment and they come from different squadrons and different ranks and different ages and all different types of things, and they get them in there and they just start drilling. They fall them in and they maybe slice up the fly a little bit and they get right into it. And then you spend the whole night going back and forth, doing columns and flanks and to the rear and trying to figure it all out. But I'm not going to be teaching you exactly like pivot on the right foot, pivot on the left foot, blah 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 blah, look up at a drill manual, but I kind of want to go through like that, how to actually teach them. Because I think it's a little bit more misconstrued, a little harder to understand, because it really, there's a method to it. And I think that I, through several years, have been taught like the art of teaching drill, I guess, and I kind of just want to pass it along. So when you first get the flight out there, you want to remember that this is an instructing time. Your goal is for them to ask you questions and for them to understand. So if your goal is for them to understand and to learn, you need to turn that intensity down so that it's an environment where they're willing to ask questions and they're not scared. If you do have cadets who are highly, like if you're in a squadron and you have one tech sergeant who knows what they're doing, don't put them in the flight, put them outside of the flight and give them direction. Kind of do a mentorship thing with them, so that they're kind of learning. Don't make them a flight sergeant or flight commander, but kind of have them there, and then that way if you're demonstrating a drill movement, so like if you're about to teach them to the rear, you take that one advanced cadet and you, maybe the flight sergeant and that one cadet will demonstrate how to do that drill movement while the flight commander is calling those commands. Or if it's just the flight sergeant who's teaching, then you can do it with them and just have them kind of as a mentoring thing. Have them walk around, have them watch. When you and the flight sergeant or flight commander are talking about what you want to go over next, include them in the conversation because then you're involving them. Just have them doing another role so that they don't get super bored. If you are doing more advanced drill or joties or ditties, have them fall back into the flight. Or make them like the guide on bear, things like that. So once you get in there, you want to start with the very basics. Left face, right face, about face. And I like, the way of doing this is playing knockout, where you just do it, you keep calling commands until they get it wrong, and then they fall out. The problem with playing this too much is those people who don't know how to do it will fall out first. And so those who already know how to do it get more practice. So if you have those who fall out first, go with that one advanced cadet or with the flight sergeant, flight commander, and those are the ones, like the first 3 that fall out. They spend that next 5 minutes while they're still playing knockout going over how to do that. So once everyone has it done solid, now you want to make sure that they're standing up with the shoulders up, back, down, things like that, hands down, thumbs tucked, like have them do it perfect, because the thing is, if you let them slide in the very beginning, or if you let them slide on anything, if you see something wrong, you need to immediately correct it, because the moment that you don't correct it, it's going to continue. So if they're pivoting wrong or they're swinging their body in about haste, left haste and right haste, then they're going to be swinging their body or not doing arm swing or not looking around when you're doing the important stuff. Also, when you're drilling them, you need to make sure, like when you're talking, that you say eyes or at ease and put them at that, because the one thing that can really mess people up is if the flight sergeant is not calling them that, then you're either asking them to break whenever they're at attention, you're talking to them, or you're showing them a drill movement. You either don't want them to look at you because they're at attention, or you want them to break the rank, which then lets them get in the habit of, oh, when I'm at attention, it's okay for me to break rank if I'm doing this. And it becomes a cycle of justification. So make sure that you're being very weary, and flight sergeants, flight commanders keep each other accountable on that, of I've always done this. So like if you see someone they're just standing there at attention, even if I was like the cadet commander, I'd just be like this, look at the flight staff, and they know, oh, call eyes, or put them at ease or attention. Another thing is, when you're doing drill, you want to be doing it for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then either play another game, do some joties, do some ditties, do some things that are not as drone and as mentally needing skills. So what I would do is like 30 minutes of drill and then sit down and say, like, sit them in a circle and bring the intensity way down and be like, so what did you just learn? And have them go over it. and have them tell you, oh, it's 180 degrees, is it about haste? 180 degrees is also to the rear. So you can kind of do a little 10-minute debrief about what you just learned, and then do a 10-minute of like, we're about to go into this. So we're gonna start going into to the rears and marching with this, and here's your arm swing, and talk about it and demonstrate it while they're sitting down in the shade drinking water, rather than them standing at attention, been standing there for an hour and a half, tired and not paying attention. Especially those younger kids who are 12, they're so confused, and I like the analogy of drinking from a fire hydrant, is the water's squirting out at you and you get some in your mouth, but everything else is just going straight over your head. And when things are going over your head, you don't even realize the questions you have. So when you sit down and talk to them and treat them like humans, they actually will ask those questions. And if you even call on the person and be like, Cadet Smith, what did you think of this? Did you understand this? Get them in that conversation, and then the whole group is kind of discussing the drill and they actually understand it more. So then once you're done with that, start again. So once you get back into that formation, after that sit down, start again. Left haste, right haste, about haste, salute. All of the stationary drill, literally run through it once, and if you see any mistakes, correct them. Those drill movements need to be perfect. And then move into the next thing. I like starting with drill as just start them marching in a straight line, march in a straight line back, do it like 2 times, and then throw into the rear. Once they've got to the rear, then you can be going back and forth, and then I throw in a Jody because it's kind of fun, and you're doing like count cadence, delay cadence, and you can do those kind of things. And then what I like to do is break them up and have them march in a square. You can either, like if you're in a parking lot, you can see like those lines and have them pivot, and have them march in a square doing 4 corners that are left and then 4 corners that are right. And that way they actually learn the movements of doing the 90-degree angles. And then if you wanted to, you could break it up into other shapes like octagons and hexagons with more sides, and then you're breaking those pivot points down into different degree levels of like 45. That's if you're more advanced, but that way they understand it. So you can actually watch each cadet demonstrate how to do 45, how to do that. And so if you see them stop at every pivot and have to like really think it through, pull them aside and go into the middle of the circle, outside the circle, or square, and go over it with them. Once everyone's kind of got it, then you fall back into the flight and you start again from the very basics, not from like left haste, right haste, but from you march in a straight line down, you march in a straight line back to the rear, and then you're gonna throw in a column. At this time when you're throwing in a column, you should have already gone over it, maybe when you're sitting down, maybe where you're just staying there attention and going, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. You may want to have that extra kit you have, your flight sergeant, flight commander, maybe you can grab some extra people, because with columns you usually need 4 people to demonstrate it well. Or if you have 2 flights at a squadron, have the more advanced flight demonstrate how to do it. You can find a video online or pull out the diagrams that have it very clearly laid out, because if they have in their mind exactly what they're going to do, it'll be a lot easier. And then go, Cadet Smith, you're going to do an immediate 90-degree angle turn. Cadet Jones, you're going to do a 1-step 45-degree pivot. And you can chalk it out on the ground, do whatever you need. Have them kind of walk through it. And then once you've walked through it once, where they all just know where they're turning, you're gonna walk through it once while you're calling the commands, and then kind of speed it up a little bit more. I don't necessarily love doing by the numbers because I feel like it's not very helpful. But if you're running through with it like slowly, just having each person like see, like, okay, here's where you're going, here's where you're going, here's where you're going, and like understand the goal of exactly what you're doing, then I think it's very helpful. And then run through it once. So then do right columns, do 4 of them in a square. And then do left, 4 of them in a square, because if you notice, if you're teaching right for everything, once you start doing left, they're all super confused. So do some right, do some left, do some right, do some left. Now they're pretty much understanding. I always like to start with columns before I do flanks, because I feel like we use columns more. And then go over that kind of stuff. At some point in this, I think you should, maybe this is a long span. This is probably like 2 or 3 hours worth of drill. So whether it's like a staff training, encampment, who knows what, I think you should sit down and show them, this is what a line formation looks like. This is what a column formation looks like. Show them the drill of like stepping off your left foot in this. Show them some videos of the Air Force drilling or things like that. If you're planning to teach them for like a PIR or what exactly you're supposed to be doing, show them videos of that, of you doing it, and make sure they understand and are showing them the regulations behind it. Get a PowerPoint together and kind of go through it. Understanding the difference between what the role of a guidon bearer is, how to hand salute is a what command, and this is preparatory command, executory command, and then show them the ditties. I have a different video, I'll link it below, and Jody's and ditties, but I think take it as this is a huge big deal, not a like, oh, I'm gonna go teach them columns today, because it's not that simple. Because if you're teaching them columns and haven't taught them the fundamental basics of not swinging their body when they're doing an about face, they're not gonna get it right. And you cannot let them slide. Like, when teaching it, if you see a cadet is not doing the correct 6 inches for arm swing, then you can't move on to the next thing. You have to correct them right away, right then and there. And the only time you should be turning up that intensity really is if they're repeatedly doing something wrong, like they're like goofing around. Like, it is supposed to be like a lower stress intensity thing. I mean, depending on the event, you're gonna have to alter that, because there's definitely times to drill with intensity. But turn up the strictness. Like, if they're messing around and are talking and tension, call them out on it. Because you want to be their best friend until they're doing something wrong, and then you want to get on them for it. So if they're messing around, if they're not doing their arm strings, don't even be afraid. Like, if you're marching and someone gets off step, be like, Jones, get on step. Jones, get on step. Jones, get on step. Because it's really easy for them to be like, I'm not doing anything wrong. And the moment that they're embarrassed in front of their friends of, oh, I'm Jones, everyone knows I'm Jones, I'm the one off step, then they're gonna work to get it changed. And the thing is, like, if they are repeatedly not getting off step, pull them aside and go, let's go over how to do change step. Because most of the time, they don't know what they're doing wrong. They're looking around attention, call them out, Cadet Smith, stop looking around, stop looking around, stop looking around, stop looking around. And then you can stand there and be like, we're not moving on to the next thing. Like, have them stand attention and be like, we're not moving on to the next thing until everyone stops looking around. And then stare at them. One thing I don't like is when people have their cadets just stand there for 5 minutes for like, this is a bearing test. It's like, if they're doing a bearing test, you should very well be doing a bearing test, because it kind of is pointless. Because it's like, you need to practice staring. And honestly, it sucks, and it's super boring, and it makes drill not fun. Like I said, there's a lot of things that I just covered about mentality and what you're doing and how you're teaching it, but I think go in with the idea of, I'm going to teach these cadets drill, and then break it down, make it fun, make it understandable, and make it easy. Remember that some of these cadets are 12 years old and have no idea what you're doing. Make a plan, talk with your flight sergeant, talk with your flight commander, talk with your first sergeant. Figure it out, get it together, and plan it out. Because your plan, if it's just, we're gonna learn columns, your plan is not prepared, it's not well, and it's not the most effective way to teach. If your plan is, I have this PowerPoint, I wanna start at the beginning and go over this. Here's the regulations, I've really been reading up on AFMAN and the Cap Drill Manual, and I've got this, and I've got that, and I've got that, then you're golden. I mean, these cadets want to learn drill because that's why they're coming back. Like, that's a main selling point for people. So give them what they want and teach them this stuff. Anyway, if you have more questions, I think I have a few videos on drill. I have some on the guide on and a few things like that. I'll leave them in the comments below. Also, I'll leave drill manuals and kind of any other regulations or resources down there. I also have some like grade inflection chart. I don't know. Check down below in the description for some great resources. If you have questions, leave them down below. And if you have any other tips, leave them down below so other people can check them out. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.